with that as us as grassroots members, maybe some media training at the county level for all of us to get everybody involved, so we all know what to say. One thing I think is a problem too is there's this language barrier. Like you were saying, Tim, we're 3 and 4, most people are 3 and 4 generations removed from the farm. When we say things like my operation or my production agriculture, they don't know what we're talking about. They have no idea. And worse yet, it makes us sound large and it makes us sound industrial. And I think we need to get back to we're family farmers. And go ahead.
I was going to say, I like the point you just brought up about the training. In Nebraska, we have Leadership Academy as well as the LEAD program, but the Leadership Academy is a lot less time consuming, I guess. And I know Iowa has really good luck with this. And it has a lot of media training. And you said operation, and so many people, when we tell about ourselves, oh, we got a ranching operation. Well, when a person walking down the street hears that, you're using a knife on a cow, I don't get this, you know, and we use words that they don't understand, and we throw out acronyms, and it just makes us sound like we think we're better than them, or maybe that they don't matter. And I think we need to make sure we bring it down onto their level, and also make sure that we're the ones that they trust and they believe what we're saying.
I agree. As producers, I think, you know, we talked about the public having a preconceived notion. I think we as producers get locked into a preconceived notion of the public. We all see these ads, and we start thinking everybody's environmental activists, and we're scared to bring people on our farm and show them what we do and talk about what we do. The first step in solving this problem is we've got to unify producers, and you don't realize till you go out. I was on a plane with a guy flying in here, and he had preconceived notions about, well, you know, mule and plow and all that, but I started telling him about a little bit what we do in the poultry business, and he's like, oh, really? And most of the public is open to what we're doing and agree with a lot of things we're doing, but we just have to be a little more open, and I encourage people to come to my farm, to come see what I do. And most people that leave my farm, and they think, you know, I thought it was totally different than this. Those chickens look comfortable and pleasant. I didn't see rotten chickens hanging out of cages, and, you know, just all these bad things that we've let somebody else take the first strike and put these mental pictures in their head. But as producers, we need to work with each other and not be afraid to go to the public first.
Well, the public's absolutely listening. There's a food channel and a cooking channel and countless websites that are all dedicated to food. And there's been lots of food days that have come up. And on the surface, they really look like they're a pretty good event to promote the Know Your Food, Know Your Farmer. And I see a lot of that. We were driving across the island yesterday, and I saw several fruit stands, and many of them had that sign. But, you know, a lot of those are powered by the anti-ag groups, and they get, it's a difficult situation because we need to be involved, as USFRA often is, and they get involved, and AFBF often gets involved. But it's a tricky line to walk to keep away from the big ag and still promote the Know Your Food, Know Your Farmer. So I absolutely agree with you, Stan, that we need to open our barns and open our farms. I know we're farrowing right now, so we're getting text messages about what's happening at home with the hogs, but we certainly invite people onto our farm, and sometimes people do show up and we're doing things that aren't viewer friendly, but if we explain it, no one's ever left feeling bad about it.
Just to ask the question, there are groups that are campaigning on our behalf to show the public what we're doing and try to get our message out. Do y'all feel that they've been effective? Sometimes I look and I see, you know, there'll be people following these groups on Twitter, but they're mostly farmers, and I wonder if we're missing the target crowd sometimes. You know, what do you guys feel like we need to do to get to the consumer? Because they're not going to come to us. We have to go to them somehow, and there's not somebody in Manhattan's not going to sit on the internet and say, I'm going to look up and see where my chicken comes from, you know, and see what these guys are doing. But how do we get into those households to have this conversation?
RYF and our committee in my state went into Denver last summer to a big food and wine festival. And I guarantee you we were not talking to other farmers. These were all people who lived right there in Metro Denver, and they believed in the locavore movement, and they wanted to know your food, know your farmer. And we had a whole table filled with Colorado ag products, and we had young farmers and ranchers standing there and able to answer their questions. And I think it's more about seeking them out, and we don't always have to, you know, don't have to go down to Denver or the closest big city to you and like, I'm a farmer, who would like to meet me? But I think we do need to take advantage of that conversation. It may just be at the meat case at your grocery store.
I think I like that, seeking out the consumer, and I agree with what you said. We can't build it and they will come to us. That's not gonna get the job done. In a small way, I think what we can each do as Farm Bureau members is use social media. You know, there's a lot of talk of going beyond your backyard to meet the consumer, and that's really important, and we need to push that. But as individuals, think about who's on your own Facebook page. I'll just use mine for an example. I have about 330 some friends on Facebook, and only 58 of them are farmers. I went through and counted one day. If I am their only connection to a farm, and if I put out just a few messages, maybe even one message a day about, we're calving on the farm, you know, right now, I hope everything's healthy and we'll be out all night checking the calves. Things like that, they don't seem like big, you know, agenda items, but a small message can be a connection to those people who maybe live in big cities. You know, I have a lot of, keep up with a lot of cousins on Facebook. I have cousins who live in Chicago, Dallas, Texas, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles. I guarantee I'm maybe their only connection to a farmer. And if in some small way we can each individually put that out there on a daily basis, maybe they'll come to us when they have questions.
I think that's a great point about the social media stuff. We just need to really get on that bandwagon as farmers and ranchers. It's easy not to, or to say, oh, we just ain't got time to do this. But one of the easiest things you can do if you do Facebook or Twitter or any of the other avenues is just link to your state's Farm Bureau. Our state has all these great information, and anytime you're linking stuff, more people are seeing it. And you never know who's gonna pick up on that and retweet it or like it on Facebook. And the other thing we need to do is when you see something good on Facebook or Twitter, make a point to make a comment on it, because then it gets it back out there again.
I agree.
And it just helps people get a little more incentive. I know my wife and I, we started a blog last year on our ranch, and it's really interesting. We didn't get a whole lot of response besides just our family, but after talking to some people at the Nebraska Farm Bureau, they're like, oh, you just gotta stay at it, you gotta stay at it. Eventually you'll get picked up and people will start spreading it around. But we got really good comments about, oh, you know, I didn't know it was 20 degrees below zero and you're out there helping the calves. You know, people in the city, just their mentality would be, why wouldn't you be in the house? And so it just makes you that much more credible and gets your voice out there, and people believe.
That's a way you can have that open door policy. You don't always have to, or it's not always possible to have them come physically to your farm, although if it is, that's wonderful. But you can have that open door through social media.
I think the leadership training that YF&R offers has really been helpful to me as we've done this. The state where I'm from, Colorado, there's a big divide between rural and metro, as I'm sure there are in many states. But recently in Boulder County, which is where Boulder proper is, they were wanting to outlaw all organic, or make everything organic and get rid of all GMOs and get rid of specifically the Roundup Ready sugar beets. And so Farm Bureau was actually able to go up there just in force, absolutely from every segment of agriculture, and they ended up defeating that. But without that leadership training from Farm Bureau, that wouldn't have happened. And I was really pleased because I was following along on Twitter and Facebook that our YF&R AFBF committee members are actually from Colorado, and they were there.
Rachel, you hit on a good point that we really haven't brought up. And when you're talking about that, you're talking about they're trying to pass a law, and that's another area where we're being attacked at. And of course, you have the court of public opinion, but then you also have your legislators also. And another direction that these groups are attacking us is through the legislature. They're trying to pass. You look at California and some of the poultry laws they tried to pass in California. I think that's another thing we need to focus on. Any chance you can get to talk to a congressman or just a local politician, just to open their eyes a little bit. Because sometimes you'll be surprised how ignorant of the facts they may be, and all it takes is one visit or one conversation and to sway an opinion, and that can pay huge dividends down the road.
Another part of the question that we really aren't hitting on a whole bunch is, how do we explain that this is safe? What we do is safe. We've explained why we do it, but what is safe about it. And so many times the public perceives that we're just willy-nilly applying all these antibiotics and boy, all of a sudden we're gonna have immunity to penicillin because these ranchers are just giving it to everything. I know on our blog that we did, it shows me giving an injection to a calf, and then we kind of explained, here's why we do it. And the big thing, we tried to gear our blog towards children, so it's boring if you're a producer, the things we talk about, but we kind of basically said, you go get a flu shot, this is the same thing. And I think when people understand that, I didn't say this is 7-way and it prevents against blackleg, and I mean, I didn't go through that. I said, this is the same as a flu shot. We're doing the same thing. We're trying to make them healthy. We're trying to keep them healthy. And the other thing is, I didn't once say, well, if a calf dies, it costs me money. You know, we just got to stay on that same parallel that these people are going to understand and explain why
Tim,
what we do is safe.
I think it's imperative what you said. We have science on our side. The problem with having science on our side is that's not what the public responds to. They respond emotionally. And being able to tie science with an emotion and explain what's going on is key, because we have the facts. It's just how do we reach the people we're trying to reach on an emotional level and explain to them and make them understand.
So often it looks like we're hiding behind science too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, and he's talking about safety. I know for myself, I would really have to meet them where they are. I would not be able to go spew any numbers or science. It's just not in my DNA. But I've got the mommy thing going on, and I can talk to them about how I am serving my kids the same thing that I'm sending to feed yours. And I know that's leaned on a lot. It's leaned on a lot in social media. But at the end of the day, the mommies are the ones choosing what's for dinner, and the mommies are the ones at the meat market or at the grocery aisle, you know. So, and that's an opportunity, and that's something that's shared between us. And if that opens the conversation, if we both have kids with us at the grocery store and we're both looking at the meat counter, if that opens that conversation, then it's not me as Big Ag trying to talk to them about the benefits of pork. It's me as I'm cooking dinner for mine too. What are you making? Because I don't have any ideas. And it opens that conversation, and science isn't going to work for me personally, and I don't know that it's going to work for the industry, but personal would work.
Rachel and Tim, you both brought up kids and children, and that maybe brings us to, we haven't talked about My American Farm as a resource yet that Farm Bureau has, and I think that's just a marvelous website, and maybe if we can get at the children when they're learning through these Ag in the Classroom opportunities, or we in our County Farm Bureau can take the Accurate Ag books to these classrooms, and let's get those kiosks out and about to these places and reach them when they're children, when they're forming opinions, and maybe we can head off some of this before they form opinions based on what our opponents are saying instead. Your thoughts on that?
You mentioned Ag in the Classroom, and boy, I just really like to jump on that bandwagon. It's already set up for us. There's not a lot of work involved. You know, we maybe go a little above and beyond. We take videos and all kinds of stuff, and we go and visit with the kids. But you know, when you go show up that day, them kids, they swallow up everything you say, and it's amazing what Lincoln, Nebraska is not that far away, but they don't understand. But what's even more amazing is how the kids, my wife teaches a public school, and the kids there don't know anything about chicken farming, I guarantee you. And they really don't know a lot about farming in general, because they're all ranch kids. So it's amazing how we need to get our story out, but we also need to get it right at home as well.
Yes, and something I run into a lot, and I wish maybe y'all can help me come up with a way to explain. You know, we try to show this stuff to the kids, and the first thing you'll see a lot of times, like an Ag Day, they'll bring some cute fuzzy chickens, and kids start getting an emotional attachment to these little chickens. You know, we're not. You started with talking about it's not always pretty, and I was talking to a group of kindergartners one time, and I mean, they kind of caught me a little off guard. We went through the process, and they're like, "Oh, then what happens?" And then, how do you tell a group of kindergartners what's fixing? I mean, but we need to. That's the problem. I think we have since the kids aren't growing up on the farm, they don't already know what's fixing to happen, and we need to be open and honest about what happens. That way, later on, they don't find out when they're 15 years old what actually happens. You know, so
they're a lot more resilient than you think. I mean, you know, my daughter's 3 years old, and she's got this stuff figured out already, and it's amazing. We talk